state. Well, a tornado warning has also been issued across most of southern Florida, as reports say at least 2 twists have been spotted. The hurricane is expected to be so powerful that one weatherman had this response live on air. Just have a look.
Incredible hurricane. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
And John Morales joins us now. John, I have to say, just watching that clip, which has now been watched so many times and has gone viral, it was so incredibly moving to see how you responded to something you understood so well and the kind of impact it would have on so many lives and livelihoods.
It's funny, to a degree, a little funny, because it's a very geeky, nerdy moment. I'm talking about millibars, and here I am breaking down on air because I'm talking about millibars, but it meant something to me, right? 50 millibars of barometric pressure drop into the center of a hurricane over the course of 10 hours means explosive intensification of the hurricane. And not only at that very moment, just before they punched me up to go on air, not only was it dropping the pressure that precipitously, but the hurricane was classified as a Category 5 right at that moment. So, it had been a mundane tropical storm the morning before, and it was noon on Monday, and suddenly it was a Category 5. It was just very impactful. And there's other things I can get into in terms of why I got the way I got, but I don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, I mean, no, we'd really like to know, because you were in that moment speaking about millibars, but also on a human level, we could almost understand why you reacted that way, because as you say, in that really nerdy way, you really understood, perhaps more than the rest of us, what was going on and what was about to hit.
Right. So, with the pressure drop, I knew it wouldn't stop at 160 mile per hour maximum sustained winds. I knew it was going to go for a higher value, and it ended up with 180. And thankfully, it's off of its peak right now. Listen, I've written about this in the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. You all can find those articles online, but they're very introspective, because I have realized that I have changed. I have always been known as the just the facts, non-alarmist weather presenter, meteorologist here in a television market, frankly, which Miami and Fort Lauderdale and South Florida is all about hyping up tropical threats. And I was always, swimming against that current and making sure people stayed calm. But here's the problem. Extreme weather events are multiplying. They're not only becoming more frequent, they're becoming more severe. We already know that there's a greater proportion of Category 4 and 5 hurricanes occurring around the world. In other words, there may not be a greater count of hurricanes and typhoons, but there's a greater percentage of them reaching these severe catastrophic levels, like Milton, like Helene, like Irma, like Dorian, like Harvey, like Maria. I mean, I can just go on, and all those names are just since 2017. So that angst, I think, drove me to that point, combined with frustration about being a climate communicator for decades, asking for action on climate, and then realizing that not enough has been done, and that therefore here we are, and look at these hurricanes go. And the last thing is just empathy. Just feeling for the future victims of the hurricane. I think there's some kind of psychological term for that, but I can't remember. Anticipatory grieving, maybe? It was just feeling for what's coming and people's lives being wrecked.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it was incredibly powerful, moving, and people really did react to the way that you reacted in that very human moment. John, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to now switch your focus to another event in the United States, the upcoming presidential election. Polling suggests a growing lead for Kamala Harris in the race for the White House. But it's what's happening in the swing states that will decide who gets the keys. Today, early voting started in one of those battlegrounds, the state of Arizona. Tom ℍ𝕬𝕣𝕣𝕣, our data and forensics correspondent, has been diving into the data. Have a look.
Less than a month ago, looks like we've had all the debates we're going to have. So what are the polls looking like? Well, this is the Sky News poll tracker, and we're interested in the gap here. That is a 2.7-point lead for Harris, and it looks fairly sustained, fairly entrenched. She's also edging up towards 50% of the votes. That is useful, but it's not enough to win this, obviously, because it's all about this, the race to 270 electoral votes. Now, we've talked about swing states before. Here they are in grey all over the country. But we're going to go one better than swing states and talk instead about swing counties. Now, there are 3,000 counties in the USA, more than 3,000, but we picked out 7 our data team. We're going to talk about 2 of them today and where they might decide the race, or at least give us an indication of where it's going. So let's go down to Arizona, that swing state, and we're going to go to Maricopa County, the city of Phoenix in the middle of that. And what's interesting about this is there are so many votes here. 62% of all the votes available in Arizona are coming out of Maricopa County. So it's important in and of itself. It's also been important in presidential races. You can see that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, and then 4 years later, Joe Biden beat Donald Trump, and he took that county. Really, really important. And it's interesting in terms of what that county actually looks like in terms of the people who live in it. This is the demographic makeup of the county you're comparing it to the state and also the US, so right down the middle here. That's like average for the US. Anything further to the right is a high proportion. So if you look at this, Hispanic, Latino population, really high proportion there, and also weekly wages. It's one of the highest earning places in the US. What that means is a confluence of factors, hard to say. For instance, the Hispanic, Latino population, traditionally Democrat, but Donald Trump has proved that he can pick up the votes. He has done that over the years. So it's hard to say exactly how that translates, but there's so many votes here. Compare that to another swing county. It's really, really an opposite story. Pennsylvania, we've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again. Let's go to Erie County over here. Now, there are not many votes here. In fact, there's only 2% of the entire votes available in Pennsylvania. But what it does seem to have is a big predictive power, not predictive, but whichever way Erie County goes is where Pennsylvania tends to go to. So Trump beat Clinton in 2016, and then again Biden won it back from Trump. Difference here of just 1,417 votes. That shows how small this county is and how small the margins in that county is. But if you're watching on election night, and if Erie County goes one way, that could be a crucial indication. But it does show the size of the task, really. This race to 270. You've got 2 very different places. Maricopa down here, Erie up in the north, and both candidates have to hit both because what they want is to get those electoral college votes. 11 in Arizona, but 19 in Pennsylvania. So again, that is why Erie County, Pennsylvania, is going to be crucial to this whole race. So if you're watching and Erie County goes one way, that could be a really good sign of which way the whole presidency is going to go.
Our Tom ℍ𝕬𝕣𝕣𝕣 there. Well, let's go straight to Martha Kellner, who joins me live from Phoenix, Arizona. Martha, I mean, as we've been saying, these swing states is where it's going to matter. What are the people you're talking to saying now?
My gosh, but seriously though.
Yeah, this is a key day, Yalda, for the state of Arizona and for both the Harris and Trump campaigns, who are focusing so much of their campaigning energy on the state of Arizona. Only recently a swing state. It was a surprise victory for the Democratic Party and President Biden in 2020. And as Tom was saying there, whoever wins Arizona will have to go through Maricopa County, which is where I am. It's home to the state's capital, the major metropolitan centre, Phoenix, home to more than 60% of the population. So the people who are voting here today and over the next 27 days until Election Day could well hold the key to the White House. It feels like a side issue at the moment, but it is incredibly hot here. It's nudging 40 degrees, perhaps affecting the numbers of people going in and out of the polling station behind me. I have spoken to a few of them who have cast their votes today, motivated by similar issues as the rest of the electorate, really. The economy, specifically gas prices, motivated by immigration on the southern border, by the state of democracy, and by abortion too. And that is a specific issue for Arizona because abortion is a separate ballot measure here. Voters here have the option to vote to protect the right to choose in the state's constitution. But interestingly, I was speaking to one woman, Kate, who's a nurse, who said she's still voting for Donald Trump, despite the fact that she is a proponent for a woman's right to choose, for reproductive rights. She says she's voting for Trump because she simply believes that he will shore up the southern border, that he will curb the numbers of illegal migrants coming over into the country.
It's going to be incredibly tight. Thank you so much for all of your reporting. Well, this is The World with me, Yalda Hakim, live here from Jerusalem.
I'll be back tomorrow and I'll try to make more videos I wanted to do. Okay, bye!
What led Lebanon to this new point of crisis?